guys, thank you so much for being here. In this video, I wanted to focus on what's really been getting me through makeup-wise since having a newborn. And granted, there were some early days there where nothing was happening makeup-wise, like truly survival mode. But as the days go on, you feel like, okay, I want to do a little something, but I may not have the time to fully come up here to the makeup room and really dig into a lot of stuff. And maybe I just need something very on the go, any part of the house I might be in and where the baby is and they're just napping briefly. I'm like, ugh, can I just do something really quick? So for me, there have been some certain palettes that can really multitask that have been saving me during this time. And they've just been making the whole makeup process really easy for me and taking a lot of the guesswork out of, am I going to use this or that? In a lot of cases, it's one palette that contains just a bunch of different steps. So what I will sometimes do is I've got this makeup bag, and this was inspired by Kristen Game. When we had traveled together over the summer, she had really recommended this bag. The brand is called PurseN, I think. I'll link to it, but it's great. It's got like the best organization of anything, and I'll keep some brushes in here. I'll keep like a foundation, a concealer. What other random things might I use outside of one of these palettes? One of them is very all-encompassing, but like a brow product perhaps, a couple of lip colors, and then I've sort of been swapping out the different palettes. So this can go anywhere. I can bring it up here and do my makeup in the makeup room if there's time for that, or I can just do it absolutely anywhere. But in this video, I want to highlight 5 different palettes, and I'm going to go from like the most basic, simplified, most minimal to the most involved palette, I guess you'd say. And I will have a little demo with one of them showing up here too. But the first one that I've used a lot is actually this Hourglass Unlocked palette. And this was just in my hospital bag. And an interesting thing to note is that they've brought this version of the palette back. I think it's in different packaging, but it's on Hourglass's website as the Unlocked palette is back. So I think that's really cool because I love this grouping of shades here. I like that I have a powder up here that can really like just function as an all over the face powder. Actually 2 tones of that type of thing, a bronzer, a couple of blushes, and a highlight. And as I mentioned in my hospital bag video, these can double as eyeshadows if you have time for that, but really for the most part it's been a situation where, okay, if I can just even out my skin a little bit with a tinted moisturizer, you know, I love that Nude Sticks one, get that all over, and then boom, I've got some sort of colors to jazz up my face, and then mascara and lip and done. This one, you know, it's kind of a splurge. I got it last holiday season, but the products really don't wear down quickly. Anytime you see this sort of domed up nature to a product, I feel like it tends to last a little bit longer. I don't feel like I'm having to build up copious amounts, like, oh, the bronzer won't show up, so I've got to lay it on really thick and go back for tons more. I just absolutely love everything that's going on here. Both blushes show up great, so sometimes I'll use a combo of them or just one or the other. I've mentioned how actually blending these shades as eyeshadows, the bronzer and this blush, is so beautiful. So I've just really enjoyed that, and that's kind of like the most basic one that I might keep in my little bag. But another one that I've been playing with quite a bit recently, this is from Tilbury, and it's her latest version of the Instant Look in a palette. So I actually have a couple of these. I've got a smoky one, I've got the first one she ever made. This would probably be my favorite version of one of these that's come out. I just really like the tones in it. That being said, I don't think this is the best value of everything I'm talking about in this video. I think the next 3 we really get into a lot of bang for your buck, and this one is kind of like, yeah, it's nice, it creates a really pretty look, but these are kind of expensive. But if you like the Film Star Bronze and Glow, like you're getting those products here with the bronzer and the highlight. With the cheek stuff, I will say one is very clearly a blush, and the other one is just kind of like, I don't know, another option on highlight perhaps. Even though they're both labeled cheek, it's not really to me as though you're getting 2 blushes. But I do love the eyeshadows. To me, this is the best eyeshadow spread they've put in one of these palettes. I really like this kind of satin finish, rich brown color here in the middle because it makes a great crease shade, and this shade right over here, like tons of shimmer, really nice pigmentation there, and then this berry very kind of wine matte is so nice. I think it really amps up the look, makes it look more special. You can potentially go a little more dramatic. So it's called Instant Look in a Palette, Gorgeous Glowing Beauty. And again, I don't think it's necessarily your best value, but I do like it. And I feel like I've done some really pretty, really effortless looks with this. So that's been nice to on and off put in my makeup bag. Number 3, getting a little more involved still as far as the options inside. I gotta say, my Needs palette. I do love this for a reason. You know, I chose everything that's in here. To me, it's a greatest hits palette of Makeup Revolution stuff. So I was able to really choose like from different palettes that exist, like what is my favorite bronzer contour shade, my favorite blush, highlight. I even have a great little setting powder in here. And then quite a few options as far as eyeshadow goes to go rich and deep and dark or keep it still pretty natural. So this has also been something that I've really happily used during this time because I just know, you know, I love everything in here. And if I want a little bit more of an eye look going on, I can do that. I also like that this shade called Hope can be my brows as well. So if I've got a nice little stiff angled brush, boom, that fill-in is taken care of. I'm so obsessed with the blush shade in here called Joy. It's a great like kind of rich, toasty, peachy salmon, and I just always love that without fail. And it's also really special, I think, to have the setting powder in here because then you are actually able to make an impact on the staying power of your base product, whatever that might be. Maybe you're just dabbing concealer all over. Maybe you're actually using a foundation. But when you have a powder, just a plain powder to go in and use there, I think it makes a huge difference. So I have loved the versatility of this palette and it's really gotten some use. And it's funny because like I made the wants and the needs with Makeup Revolution and I love them both, and I have gotten requests like do some holiday looks with the wants palette. I promise I will. Fall is kind of almost getting past me here, but some fall holiday looks, they'll be coming, some updated ones. But something I might even hear about more from people like, oh my gosh, I'm loving this so much, is the Needs palette because I think it's just proven itself from a practicality standpoint, and it's so easy to travel with this, to make this be just a one and done step in the manner that I'm describing. So I love that so much. Now these last couple palettes really have a lot going on, and as far as color variety, I would say this next one is the biggest like spread of stuff going on, and it's from Pur, and it's called the Crystal Clear Ultimate Face Palette. And you might recall I mentioned this in my big holiday haul video. I'm like, I'm gonna be experimenting with this, I'm gonna try it out and let you know how it goes. And I will say I don't love the whole clear sheet thing that has to happen here to keep these panels separate because it's just like a literally a taped on clear sheet. Whatever. I can get past it though because I do really love the variety and the quality of what's in here. You've got basically a whole panel of matte shadows, a whole panel of shimmer shadows right over here, and then a bunch of different face things from your contour shades to blushes to highlights, and I have just been loving it. Like, it's a lot of fun, but it's very self-contained. You know, you're not digging around through multiple palettes to come up with like a purple down here or a great shimmery gold. There's even a couple of glitters. It really goes there. It really stretches things as far as the options. While it is largely neutral, they've done a good job of putting in a few pops. Like over here on the matte side, this shade here, very unique, really orangey yellow shade, the blue, the purple, again with varying textures over here of shimmers on this side. Some are softer shimmers, some are more metallic, and then we even have a couple of glitters. But the glitters are really just a small footprint in this palette. Love the blushes in here, I've got to say. Like, it's just a really cool palette, and if you've got the time and you feel like, okay, I want to play a little bit more, but I still need my portable kind of easy thing to take with me, and I want it to do more than just eyeshadow, this is a great option, I think. I don't have the price of this on the tip of my tongue, but I'm pretty sure it was less than like the Charlotte Tilbury or the Hourglass, and look how much more you get. And then this last one I'm going to talk about, I do think it has the most like different kinds of product variety, albeit not quite as much color variety as the last one I showed, but I really wanted to commit to talking about this because I was telling people on Instagram, like, I've gotten the latest It Girl beauty book from QVC and I really want to review it. So I thought this video might be the perfect way to get that out there to you guys. So if you're not familiar with this idea, this is something that QVC has exclusively been putting out for the past few years. It's gone through some changes in terms of its format. At first it was like just a little kind of cheap looking black box, like kind of glossy finish. Looks like something you might find in the cheap holiday section of Walmart, you know, the way it all folded out and the way it looked, but it did contain a bunch of purely good IT Cosmetics products. And then they really started to hone things a little bit and put it out in this really compact beauty book style that is super travel friendly. I mean, you look at it compared to the size of my hands, it's not big, but yet the pans of product in here are so generous and it's really user friendly. As far as outer packaging goes, I gotta say they had nowhere to go but down after last year's. I mean, this was gorgeous. I love the way that looked. And then this year's is a little more plain from the outside. So what you're gonna do, to me, like that's, the outer packaging is not a make it or break it thing, but this was stunning. But you open it up and you've pretty much got the same kind of concept as last year's. Across the top, they've put their Bye Bye Under Eye Corrector shades, and they give them to you in Fair Light, Medium Tan, and Tan Rich. And I'll have a little demo here kind of following me along. This is what I'm wearing today. I go to the medium tan because that works really well for my darkest discoloration. So I'll pop that on around the eye area, any remaining melasma, any redness around the nose. And then I go to the lightest shade, and I know I can dab that over the areas where I want the most brightness. So I just dab it in and then blend it in with either my fingers or a brush, and I feel like I've got great coverage. I think maybe last year when I reviewed last year's version of this, I might not have even had a base product on my skin prior to starting. Here I am wearing a foundation. It's the Bobbi Brown Intensive Skin Serum Foundation, a new one I'm playing with. But for some reason, I think last year I put together the whole look just off of these for my coverage, and it was great. And then underneath there, you've got two powders. And one concern people had expressed to me was the fact that they don't like cream right next to powder. And generally that would annoy me too, but these powders produce like zero fallout, so you don't have anything compromising these shades. And prior to this coming in, I had been using mine from last year too, and like nothing's drying out cream wise, everything is still in good condition. So I just want to let you know that in this palette it's not really a problem. But this Bye Bye Pores powder, just the ability to have a setting powder in a palette like this is so great. As I mentioned with the Needs, as I mentioned with the Hourglass palette, having something where you can just kind of set the face and it's not going to have shimmer. And then you've got a bronzer down here. This is in the shade called Beach. Last year the color was called Honey Glow, so a little bit different, but overall just a really similar layout to the original. Then you look at the next panel and you've got this blush. It's called Bubbly, and it's actually kind of an ombre blush to highlight, which I do like that. The blush is really a beautiful shade, and then you have that option of working in some glow to it. So I think that's cool. And then down at the bottom you have this color called Aglow, which is actually a cream highlight, and it's beautiful. It has a really brightening kind of pinky tone in it, and at first I was like, oh, I'm sad that there's not a separate highlight at the bottom, because last year's did give you the Hello Light powder highlight at the bottom. But here I think you're actually getting a little extra because you've got powder highlight at the top of the blush and then also the cream, and then three lip colors here. You're getting Adorn, Je ne sais quoi, and Thrill. And Thrill is really the most opaque major color happening here, and the other shades are much more sheer. I've got Adorn on today, and it's a pretty cool pink. Je ne sais quoi, I think it's odd that they named it that, because that actually is a lipstick that they make, and it's like one of these clear transforming type colors. And I would say the shade I've got on, Adorn, actually looks a little bit more like the end result of Je ne sais quoi's staining ability than this slightly warmer pink in the middle. But whatever, they can name it whatever they want. I might be reading a little too far into it, but you do get three lip colors there. And when I'm in a hurry and I'm using this palette, I will use these and actually make these work as my lip colors. I don't go back to them for touch-ups really. That is kind of the impractical thing of having lip colors in palette form. But at the same time, when I'm putting together the look at the start of the day, like I'll go to those. And then our last panel here has the eyeshadows, and it also has a few other things going on. Across the top, this Superhero Eye Foundation. Basically, that's a really, really opaque off-white shadow that kind of neutralizes everything really nicely. across the lid or your entire eye space. And then at the bottom, there's Superhero Liner and Brow Power Powder. So I did use the Brow Power Powder in my look today, just with an angled brush. You can zip through your brows really quick. That was also included in the Ulta It Girl palette as well. And then before you get into your eyeshadow, if you want a quick primer, I can make like this concealer shade work as my eye primer, or use an actual eye primer, whatever. But I kind of like the spread of eyeshadows in this palette better than my other one. You've got mattes right over here. The rest are shimmers, but not necessarily shimmers that have to be like a spotlight shade on your lid. There's some really nice pigmentation to those. I love this color called All Heart right here. Nice amount of glow in that one, but Ember is kind of the game-changing shadow here. It's so rich and dark. It's a beautiful wine burgundy color, and it can really make your look easily and quickly more dramatic. So for today's look, all I did was use Dash in my crease, this kind of cool taupey shade. Got that blended out. I got the eye foundation across my lid just to neutralize a little bit. Patted Ember on the outside and blended that up into my crease. Very easy, but a lot of impact with that shade. Also used a little bit of glimmer for some brightening around my inner corner. And then something I've actually been liking to do is going into the Superhero Liner shade with a pencil brush. So this does not have to be precise at all, but going about halfway in on my lash line and then pulling it outward and getting a little definition there. I actually love that look. It's great, easy, soft liner. And then boom, pop on your superhero mascara or whatever mascara you want to use, and you are done. So this is a concept I love. It's the most encompassed in one palette. And as you can see, it's not really leaps and bounds different from last year's. If you already have last year's and you're like, do I really need to buy another? You may not feel the need to, because so much is the same. However, a couple of little improvements I think that were made is having that ombre kind of blush highlight thing going on. Also, I think there's a little more impact in the eyeshadow colors in the new palette compared to this one. Although I don't really dislike last year's shadows, it's just I'm a little more into what's happening in the new palette. So it's super handy, incredibly travel friendly, and I gotta give that product props. But thank you guys so much for watching. I gotta get downstairs and help with the baby. But I hope this gives you some ideas for how to make things go when time is short, when you're just needing something super convenient. These are some palettes that I've been going to lately, and just like swapping them out after a couple of days and then having a different one. And it's really fun to see all that they can actually do. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.